Arsenal are on a little bit of a revenge tour. As it was, they have beaten Liverpool, beaten Brighton now, they've beaten Manchester City, and eventually they are hoping to beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Arsenal are going through a certain phase right now when they are very high in confidence and they are very defensively solid. Whenever I watch Arsenal these days, especially today, I don't have that same fear that I had last season of a team that didn't know how to approach a game. And with all the emotional victories that we were getting last season compared to this season, when Arsenal seemed like a very cold, calculated assassin, it brews a lot of confidence, not only within the fan base, but also they are now starting to build that trust with everybody else that is a doubter when it comes to them winning this Premier League title. When I watched them today against Brighton, I not at one point felt as though Arsenal were going to lose this game. They just seem to be very measured in the way they defend and the way they attack. And eventually, when Arsenal did race as 3-0 winners today, it was a justified victory, one that showed not only defensive resilience, but also showed the doubters who keep on talking about Arsenal's striking dearth as being very null and void. Kai Havertz has not only proven his doubters wrong, but some of us who did believe in him. And if you remember, I made a video about Kai Havertz and what I think his role would be up for Arsenal, especially when it comes to the run-in of the season. It showed that Kai Havertz is much more of the player that we all believed him to be when he was at Bayer Leverkusen. Now, I don't want to write his praises way too early because he's still in a very early phase of his Arsenal career, but eventually this man could be the reason why Arsenal ends up winning the title this season. But anyway, guys, it's your boy Izzy. And if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that like and the subscribe button to let YouTube and everybody else know that you are enjoying this content. So when this game began today, a lot of Arsenal fans were obviously thinking about last season's 3-0 defeat at home at the Emirates to Brighton, which pretty much put the seal on Arsenal's belief that they could end their 19th season at that time trophy drought when it comes to the Premier League title. Today's game had a very different sense of it. While all Arsenal fans, and I'm pretty sure Mikel Arteta and his Chargers all felt as though today's game was going to be tough, there seemed to be a certain proficiency with Arsenal when they started the game and the way they approached the game. And Brighton were very good and formidable opponents, but the way Arsenal took them apart in the first 15 or so minutes, where Arsenal could have been 2 or 3 goals up, was something to marvel at. Arsenal, despite not having the striking capabilities of your Darwin Núñez or your Erling Haaland, always seem to share these goals around. And with the rise of Kai Havertz in attack and the way he gives Arsenal a certain focal point, the fact that you didn't have to have Martinelli start this game and giving him an opportunity to rest up for a game such as Bayern Munich, where they're inevitably going to need him when they are going to be dealing with the likes of Alphonso Davies, who's an extremely rapid defender. That gives you a lot of opportunities to think of Arsenal in different ways. And they managed to do that today. Gabby Jesus was very good on the wings, and on the other side, Saka was his normal, dependable self. And in the middle, Kai Havertz gave them that focal point that I was talking about before, something that a lot of people keep saying that Arsenal don't have. Eventually, the goal did come when Gabby Jesus was taken down by Tariq Lamptey. It was a pretty much stonewall penalty. Some people wanted to argue over the fact that Lamptey did have a little touch on the ball, but when you impede the player in the same way that he did, it's pretty obvious that that was going to be a penalty. It was dispatched unequivocally by Bukayo Saka, and this happened to be the anniversary of his penalty miss against West Ham during that very tough run last season. And you can see the confidence that he has been able to grow over the last year and the way he is able to dispatch of penalties these days. He's dispatched of every single one that has been called on him this season. Arsenal were well worth the 1-0 victory at that moment, and Brighton, of course, will give anybody any problem, and in the next few minutes before halftime, they did have a couple of opportunities themselves. But after halftime, Arsenal decided to slow the pace down, and that was one of the things that has helped them so far this season. When you look at the game against Luton in the second half, despite not having most of their first teamers going forward, Arsenal was able to just take the team apart slowly, and this is something that is brewing a lot of confidence in the fans. The fact that Arsenal can now look at these opponents in these very tough fixtures and believe that they are not going to crumble in the same fashion as they did last season. By the time Kai Havertz added a second goal, it was almost done and dusted. Brighton did not seem to have a lot of the answers for Arsenal. Arsenal had more possession at that point than Brighton, and Brighton were struggling to break Arsenal down. There wasn't any harrowing opportunity for Brighton where you would have thought that Arsenal looked as though they were going to concede. And eventually, Arsenal were gifted their third goal when Leo Trossard, who is a former Brighton player, was able to race clean through and dink the ball over the goalkeeper. Now, his celebration was slightly muted, but you can tell that he had some satisfaction in being able to celebrate for his new club, which is tough. I'm understanding that if I was watching one of my former players have that satisfactory look on his face as well as grabbing the badge, I'd be a little bit peeved, but you can't blame him because he had been roundly booed when he first came in, when he was substituted in. Now, what does this mean for Arsenal? I keep saying that I keep growing in confidence every single time I watch Arsenal play. I will say something. A lot of my predictions so far were hinged on the run-in of all three teams. Now, while Manchester City at this point look as though they have a much easier run-in than the other two, I will say that Liverpool have been very formidable in the way they approach games and the way they have this never say die attitude. And of course, we all know that the Jurgen Klopp factor is going to play a big part in this run-in. But I do want to say that Arsenal keep on giving me the confidence in believing that this might just be the season. The way they're approaching games and the fact that they are taking care of some of these very difficult fixtures in very consummate ease. Today's game against Brighton was going to be challenging for anybody. And we saw what they were able to do against Liverpool last week. And despite the fact that Liverpool did come back to win that game, they did so with a lot more difficulty than Arsenal did today. This game tomorrow is going to be very important as to whether Liverpool are going to end up winning this title, because I do see this as a possible banana skin for Liverpool. Old Trafford is going to be a hostile territory for them, and despite the fact that Liverpool should be far and away the favorites and should really win the game tomorrow because Manchester United have been woeful recently. Their display against Brentford was atrocious last week, and their collapse against Chelsea was unfathomable. I can only feel for how Manchester United fans feel right now. Now, I play a little violin for them because Manchester United was the dominant team for such a long time. And so to see them crumble that way is going to give some people some satisfaction, of course. But there is something to Manchester United trying to stop Liverpool from getting their 20th title. And this is one of the few opportunities that they will have to directly influence what happens into this title race. Now, that's not to say that they won't be professional when they face Arsenal later on in the season, but it is something to look at Liverpool right now and know that they are still not at the top of their capability because they don't have their full team. And while Jurgen Klopp can will them to do whatever they can do in different moments, it's going to be hard to try and get over the line. And when you're doing it, getting over the line at Old Trafford is going to be a tough game. Now, I won't speak directly to what I believe is going to happen tomorrow because I just think that in rivalries such as the Liverpool and Manchester United one, the game can throw up anything. But I do believe that tomorrow is going to be pivotal to where this title is going to go. And not just because I think the rivalry is great, but because I do think that if Liverpool do come a cropper tomorrow, that might be the point where Arsenal start believing a lot more that they can win this title. Now, Arsenal do have a very tough run in themselves. They still have to face Tottenham. They still have to face Manchester United themselves. And they still have to face Villa. So there are some tough teams in Arsenal's run in. But Arsenal have now started to show and to have a lot more trust in themselves that they can take care of those big games. Liverpool, we know, can also take care of those big games. But it's going to be very important that they get the 3 points tomorrow. And while some people think that it's a foregone conclusion that they will beat Manchester United, I think that this might be the game where Liverpool do come a cropper. I actually do think that it's going to be a draw. I'm going to have Liverpool drawing 2-2 with them, but I won't be surprised if this game turns out to be a goal fest, simply because Liverpool are very good going forward. Manchester United are not good going back, but Manchester United are a team of moments. And you never know what Rashford might decide to do. You don't know what Bruno Fernandes might be able to do. And we all know that Garnacho is a very good player, and he might be the person to drag them through this game. But anyway, guys, as far as Arsenal is concerned, I am growing in confidence in their ability to win this title. This is another game that proves that. And if they're able to ride through the Bayern Munich games and get as close to the semifinal as they can and still winning in the league, because next they have Aston Villa, and if they're able to dispatch a Villa at home, which is going to be favorable for them, then they might be able to go into that Wolves game. And after that, they are going to have Tottenham. It's going to be tough. It's a beautiful run-in. It's a very good time to watch football right now. And the Premier League is just as interesting as it's been. But now we have 3 teams for the first time in about a decade going for the title. It tells you about the strength in depth of the league when you look at the teams such as Aston Villa and you look at other teams such as Tottenham, who can also cause upsets. And you can also look at the top 3 being so close to each other. And the fact that Villa and Tottenham are not too far off the top 3. And I know they're not in the conversation because they're definitely not going to have any type of consistency, and we can see them dropping right now with Villa losing points today. But at the end of the day, we have to say that this is one of the best seasons that the Premier League has thrown up. And in my opinion, the 2013-2014 season is my favorite season, despite the fact that Arsenal did collapse towards the end of that season. It was just a very interesting watch for anybody, especially if you are a neutral. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think I'm getting ahead of myself as far as Arsenal's capability to win the title? Or do you think that Arsenal would eventually lose that trust that they have started building with the rest of the fan base and the rest of the league as far as their ability to win the title? It's been your boy Izzy. Once again, thank you for your support. I appreciate you guys being here with me. I'll catch you on the next review. Peace.